If you've ever felt this, if one careless sentence from someone else could ruin your whole day, if one sarcastic comment, one passive-aggressive coworker, one cruel stranger online, or one cold laugh from a relative could keep replaying in your mind for hours, then don't be too quick to call yourself sensitive. Maybe the problem is not that you care too much. Maybe the problem is that you keep spending your most expensive attention on the cheapest things in the room. Silas used to live that way. He was the co-founder of a small startup. Sharp mind, fast execution, good instincts. From the outside, he looked like the kind of person who would move quickly through life. But people close to him knew one weakness. He was too easy to disturb, not in the obvious way. He didn't scream in meetings. He didn't throw things. He looked calm most of the time. But if someone questioned him, he carried the sentence home. If someone made a small, cutting remark in a meeting, he replayed it all night. If a stranger online wrote something cruel about his product, he would say, "I don't care," then screenshot the comment, enlarge it, reread it, and start drafting a reply. One night, he spent hours arguing with someone he had never met. The stranger did not understand his product, did not understand the industry, did not understand the problem they were trying to solve. He simply wrote a few mocking lines, calling Silas another dream-selling fraud. Silas meant to answer once. One sentence became three became 10. The more he explained, the more excited the stranger became. The more Silas tried to clarify, the more the other person twisted the topic. By the time Silas finally stopped, it was 3 a.m. The next day, he walked into a conference room for one of the most important partnership presentations of the year, but his brain felt like a computer with too many background programs open. His eyes were on the slides. His mind was still inside the comment thread. That mocking tone, that false accusation, that sentence, "People like you always say the same thing," it sat in him like a splinter. During the presentation, he made mistakes he normally would not have made. He hesitated over numbers. He answered a key question half a beat too slowly. The potential partners did not reject the deal immediately, but the temperature in the room changed. After the meeting, Silas stood alone in the elevator and felt something absurdly clear. That stranger had cost him 10 minutes. No. A whole night. No. The next morning's judgment. Maybe even a partnership. And that was the first time Silas understood something. Some people are not here to debate you. They are here to steal your battery. That night, Silas did not go back to the office. He went to a small sword hall on the north side of the city. There was no sign outside, only a black wooden door. He knew about the place because, years earlier, an investor had once told him something strange. If you ever realize you are being dragged to death by worthless things, go find Armand. Armand owned the sword hall. He was not old exactly, but his hair had turned completely white. He wore a simple dark shirt with the sleeves rolled up. His hands carried old scars. His eyes were quiet, not like they were looking at a person, but like they were weighing the cost of an event. When Silas pushed the door open, Armand was polishing a long sword. Silas expected to be asked why he had come. Instead, Armand looked at him once and said, "You just lost a very expensive fight." Silas froze. Armand placed the sword back on the rack. "Not because you lost the argument," he said, "because you entered it." Silas did not know what to say. Armand led him to the back of the hall. It was not a training room. It was a small chamber with one table, one old lamp, a stack of white paper, and a brass hourglass. Armand turned the hourglass over. The sand began to fall. "This," he said, "is your cognitive bandwidth for the day. You think you have a lot of it. You don't. When you wake up, maybe you have one full glass. You use it to make decisions, create, endure, love, and understand the world. Then you spend it replying to the malice of a stranger." Silas said nothing. Armand pointed at the falling sand. "You are not expressing yourself, you are burning assets." He said the mind has only so much energy for rational judgment, creativity, and meaningful choice. Arguments with foolish people may look small, a few comments, A few sentences, a quick correction, but they leave residue. You return to work, but your brain does not fully return with you. You close the comment thread, but your nervous system is still fighting. You think the argument is over, but it continues running in the background, draining power. People at the top can look cold, Armand said, not because they have no emotions, because they understand that every emotional spike lowers the accuracy of their next decision. He pushed a blank sheet toward Silas. Write this down. What did you earn by replying last night? Silas picked up the pen. He could not write anything. Armand asked, what did you lose? This time, Silas wrote quickly. Sleep, focus, the partnership presentation, judgment, half a day of emotional stability, maybe a client. Armand glanced at the list. You see, he said, you were not insulted. You signed a bad trade. The pen stopped in Silas's hand, because that was exactly what it was. A bad trade. He had always thought replying was courage. He had thought explaining was responsibility. He had thought refusing to be misunderstood was self-respect, but now it looked different. A lot of the time, he had been trading gold for garbage. Armand led him to the wall. A row of swords hung there. Long swords, short blades, heavy training weapons, a few older ones that looked like they had survived another century. Under the blade in the center, one sentence was carved into the wood. A general has a sword, but does not use it to cut flies. Silas stared at the line for a long time. Armand said many people misunderstand silence. They think silence means weakness. They think it means you have no answer. They think it means you are afraid to strike back. But sometimes silence is the highest form of contempt. Because when someone attacks you, what they want is not the answer. They want your reaction. They want your anger, your self-defense, your loss of control. They want to drag you into the mud pit they chose. Once you enter, they succeed, even if your argument is better, even if your logic is cleaner, even if you technically win. You have already lost part of the game because you accepted their rules. Never wrestle with a pig, Armand said. You both get covered in mud, and the pig enjoys it. Silas laughed once, then stopped, because he knew he had just crawled out of the mud. Armand continued. The truly intelligent person is not always the person who can strike back hardest. The truly intelligent person knows how to decide whether something deserves the cost of their attention. Some problems must be solved. Some conflicts must be handled. Some misunderstandings deserve clarification. But much of what reaches you is not a problem. It is bait. Bait often looks like disrespect. It looks like injustice. It looks like being underestimated. But its true function is to make you stop, to pull you off your own track, to make you spend energy proving you are not what they said you are. Silas suddenly remembered something. Every time he had started rising, the noise around him had increased. When he started training, someone called him performative. When he started reading seriously, someone said he was pretending to be deep. When he started building his product, someone said he was unrealistic. When he started improving, some people did not support him. They sharpened. He used to think that meant something was wrong with his relationships. Now he saw it differently. It was the gravity of the old environment. If you have been living at the bottom of a bucket, people get used to you being there. The moment you start climbing, some people will not climb with you. They will pull. Not because you are wrong, because your upward movement reflects the pain of their staying still. You need escape velocity, Armand said. And escape velocity is ruined by looking back. That night, Armand did not teach him a single sword movement. He gave him one practice. For the next 7 days, Silas was not allowed to explain himself. Not in situations that required responsibility. Not when something genuinely needed to be solved. Not when silence would harm people who mattered. Only in situations designed to provoke, drain, and pull him into a worthless game. Cruel comments, no reply. Passive-aggressive coworkers, no hook. Relatives making cheap remarks, no debate. People deliberately misunderstanding him, no immediate trial in which he laid his soul open for inspection. You will suffer, Armand said. because you will discover that many of your explanations are not for truth. They are requests for someone unnecessary to admit that you were right. On the first day, Silas nearly failed. He saw a comment and placed his fingers on the keyboard. 10 replies appeared in his mind. Which one would be strongest? Which one would humiliate the person? Which one would make him shut up? Then he remembered the hourglass. He removed his hands from the keys. He did not feel wise. He felt trapped, like there was a fire inside his body, with nowhere to go. On the second day, a coworker challenged him in a meeting with a sarcastic tone. The old Silas would have explained the background immediately, corrected the misunderstanding, added data, defended himself. This time he looked at the coworker, paused for 2 seconds, and said, "I'll answer that with the result." The room went quiet for a moment, and for the first time, Silas felt something strange. Not victory, freedom from being remote controlled. By the third day, he began to see why certain attacks hit him so hard. When someone said he was not professional enough, he wanted to fight back because some part of him feared he was not legitimate yet. When someone said he was just lucky, he became furious because he feared his effort would never be seen. When someone said his company would fail, his whole body tightened because he feared that too. He realized that negative energy can be a dirty mirror. You do not have to bring the mirror home, but you can look once and ask where the wound still is. The sentence that makes you explode is usually not powerful by itself. It is powerful because it touches a place you have not healed. So not replying was not only external damage control, it was internal diagnosis. You take the energy you were about to throw outward and force it to turn back. Why do I need to prove this so badly? What am I afraid they saw? Where am I still asking the world to stamp my worth? Those questions hurt, but they are worth more than another dirty fight. On the 7th day, Silas returned to the sword hall. Armand was polishing the same blade. This time, Silas did not rush to explain what had happened. He simply placed his phone on the table. That week, he had replied to fewer things, explained less, entered fewer pointless emotional wars, and strangely, the world had not collapsed. It had become quieter. He finished a product proposal, slept a little better. The potential partners scheduled a second meeting, and for the first time, he noticed that some voices disappear when they are not fed. Armand looked at him and said, "Now you understand. Many worthless things do not need to be solved. They only need to not be fed." Silas asked, "What if I'm truly misunderstood?" Armand placed the sword back on the rack. "Explain to important people, handle important matters. Do not run from real responsibility. But the people who only want to drag you into the mud do not deserve your blade." He pointed to the sentence on the wall. "A general has a sword, but does not use it to cut flies. Not because the fly is powerful," Armand said, "because the sword is expensive." Years later, Silas became quieter. Not colder, quieter. He still faced criticism, still met foolish people, still encountered cheap attacks, bad faith, and deliberate misunderstandings. But he no longer treated every stimulus as a command. He no longer believed every misunderstanding required a courtroom. He no longer donated the best parts of his mind to the least worthy people in the room. He began treating silence as asset protection, not explaining as energy management. Every time he refused to enter a useless fight, he saw it as another inch of escape velocity, because he finally understood that life is carved by attention. Where you look, your world grows. Stare at mud long enough, and mud becomes your map. Look toward the stars, and at least your feet begin moving toward higher ground. This is Otherworld Radio. Not every sentence deserves a reply. Not every misunderstanding deserves a defense. Real strength is not winning every fight with every foolish person. It is knowing that your sword belongs to the mountain, not to the flies.